Oh,
Ah, look at that. Go high tech now.
all right.
you're fancy.
Fancy.
Well,
Yep.
thank you guys all for taking the time to jump on here. Basically, like the purpose of
Man.
this call is just to make sure, because talking to everyone in the gym, not everyone might be on the same page with how you should correctly progress through all of the phases of your program week to week. So, we're going to be talking about progressive overload. And basically, it involves the gradual increasing of intensity or difficulty of your workouts over time. So, as your body adapts to your resistance training program, you're going to find that the same number of sets and the same number of reps are no longer difficult to complete with the same weight that you have been using. How can you maximize your growth potential within each week to week of this program that we have set up for you so that you're maximizing the effectiveness of it and you're not just like wasting time in the gym. The driver of this progressive overload is working through a series of cycles, right? So these are like predetermined time frames within which these variables are manipulated. Like let's say we're looking at a 12-week program. Okay, we would call that a macro cycle. A macro cycle goal, which should represent your 12-week long-term goal. And then each one of those macro cycles should be split up into like 4-week mesocycles. So a mesocycle goal is like a 4-week phase. So you'll notice like when I upload a new program onto your calendar, that usually they have 4 weeks. On most of yours, you're going to see 5 weeks. I'll tell you what that fifth week is. And so each 4-week cycle, and this is where it gets important, is made up of 4 1-week microcycles. And so the goal of a microcycle is very short term. Each one is designed to build momentum and progress you towards the successful attainment of your larger 4-week goal, which represents a benchmark towards your ultimate 12-week goal. So the weights or reps systematically change every microcycle, so every week, and we use a tool called reps in reserve. And so this is a very important term in our programming that I want to make sure that you guys understand. So reps in reserve are the number of reps you can accomplish before you hit technical failure on an exercise, meaning that you can't do another rep with perfectly controlled form. Okay. So let's say we're starting a brand new 4-week program and you're in the gym, you open up your app, you click on your calendar, you're on week 1. Every exercise you do in week 1, I want you to keep 3 reps in reserve. Okay, so that means you're going to have 3 reps left in the tank. So, for example, let's say in week 1, you're in your program and it says that you have to do 12 reps of bicep curls. Okay, so you're going to select a weight that allows you to get your 12 reps. But once you hit that 12 reps, you should be able to perform an additional 3 reps with perfect form before hitting failure. So if it says do 12 reps, you're actually picking a weight that you could hit 15 reps if we made you. Okay. And the reason for this is because every time we change up the program, right, every 4 weeks, just the novelty of the new exercises or the new exercise sequencing is enough to stimulate muscle growth. And so we don't need to take it all the way to failure right away in order to get the same amount of muscle growth. We can get the same amount by keeping 3 reps in reserve. And the benefit from doing that is because as you get closer and closer to failure, you're going to add systemic fatigue, right? And so when you have systemic fatigue, that's what gets you to the point where now you can no longer progress. You can no longer add more weight. You can no longer add more reps. And now you've plateaued in your program and you're forced to kind of back down and take a deload week and back things off anyway. So if we know that over the course of that 4 weeks, fatigue is going to build and going to chase us down over 4 weeks, we might as well walk that line with it and get progressively harder from week to week. Okay, so we get more hypertrophy or muscle growth as we go from 3 reps in reserve to 2 reps in reserve to 1 rep, and eventually going all the way to failure, we're going to get maximum hypertrophy. But we're going to do that week to week so that by week 4, you're going all the way to failure. And then that 5th week that you'll see on most of your programs, that's when we'll deload, we'll shed off that fatigue, and then you'll start a whole new mesocycle with whole new workouts. And then the novelty of those new workouts will make it so that you're going to get the same amount of growth having 3 reps in reserve, and then we'll repeat that same process over and over again. The other thing that I want to go over is it might not be an exercise that from week to week you can add more weight, right? And I'm sure you guys have exercises where you're kind of staying within that same weight for a little while before you're able to progress because it's a smaller muscle group. And so in that instance, instead of adding weight, you're going to add 1 more rep each week. So even though your app might say, okay, you're going to do week 1, you're doing 12 reps of, let's say you were doing lateral raises and you're using 10-pound dumbbells, okay? And that allowed you to get to your 12 reps, and you know that you probably could have gotten 3 more if you just really pushed it and tried to squeeze out those last 3 with good form. The next week, maybe you try to jump up to 15 pounds or maybe 12 and a half if you're in the gym and 12 and a halves are available, but you can't make it all the way to 12 reps. And that jump from week to week is too much. So in that instance, what I would do instead of increasing weight is you're going to increase 1 more rep. So if in week 1 with those 10-pound dumbbells, you got your 12 reps, right, with really good form. But then in the next week, we're not going to up the weight. We're just going to do 13 reps, which you'll record in your app. And that brings us to 2 reps in reserve, just like it would have been if you had have done 12 squats in week 1, and then you added 5 pounds to each side. And now you're able to do 12 reps, but then you only have 2 reps left. So you always want to be trying to make these adjustments in these variables so that you have 3 reps left in the tank, 2 reps left in the tank, 1 rep left. And then by week 4, you're hitting failure on everything at that targeted number of reps that we put in that app for you. I wanted to make sure that you understand what you should be using that week 5 for in your program. And that week 5 should be used as a deload week. So as we're going through those 4 weeks, if you're properly either adding weight week to week or you're adding reps week to week, by the time you finish that week 4, you should be smoked, right? Like your body should be tired. You should feel like I'm in need of a deload. And so a deload is our week 5. So you're going to go through the exact same workout, but you're going to do like half the amount of volume and half the amount of intensity, like 6 reps in reserve. And sometimes, like if you're real tired, like 8 reps in reserve so you can shed off that fatigue. So what that means is if in week 1 you were using a weight where when you hit your 12 reps, you could have got to 15 reps. Now, if you hit 12 reps, you probably could get 18 reps. So it's actually going to be a little lighter than you even did in week 1. And it's going to be enough of a stimulus so that you're maintaining that muscle, but it's going to allow us to shed off the fatigue. So then when you go into that next new program, you're going to be refreshed, you're going to be recovered, and then you're going to be able to continue to, again, progress through that one in the same fashion and get the most out of it.